Hey friends, welcome to Fight Song Podcast. I'm Dan Wilburn, and I am pleased to present you with our best, worst matchup yet. Sacha, Dunable, and I will be deeply discussing the intricacies of Papa Roach, Last Resort, and Evanescence, Bring Me to Life. It's a shame there can only be one winner. A few updates since our last episode. Sacha's band Intronaut announced a few tour dates at the end of April on the West Coast. You can find those at intronautofficial.com. Also, Sacha's line of custom guitars released a new model since our last episode. You can find the Cyclops at dunableguitars.com. And this week marks 1 year since I released a record under the name Wet Teeth. You can find it for free at all the online platforms. Wetteeth.com has the links. And of course, fightsongpodcast.com to cast your vote on this episode and to check out our other episodes. This intro is over. So the fourth episode was our most popular, which is kind of unsurprising, right? With our guest, with Rigs of Dad.
And our skyrocketing popularity, yeah.
It could have been us. We had a lot of insight into 80s rock that no one listens to anymore.
Yeah, this will be the real test here, I guess, to see if people will listen to us to talk, even if we're talking about two total pieces of shit of fucking music.
Two things that I never attempted even to listen to on my own.
But still had to anyway.
I sure do know these songs.
Yeah.
They're in my life.
Wait, so at the end of the day, Pour Some Sugar on Me was the photo finish?
When I texted you like 2 hours ago, it was tied 50-50. And so I posted on our Instagram, on mine, and on my Facebook, and we got about 10 votes in an hour to push it to Def Leppard, Pour Some Sugar on Me, winning the episode by a healthy 55-45 margin.
Wow. I can't believe 10 people cared enough in 1 hour.
Somehow proving my theory that if you hear Pour Some Sugar on Me right there in front of you, that's what you're going to vote for. But if you've got time to think about it and really think about the songs, Living on a Prayer might get you.
I had a friend chime in and tell me that Pour Some Sugar on Me isn't even Def Leppard's quintessential song, and that Photograph is.
I like Photograph, but that's a silly thing to say.
It's very silly.
Photograph is like if there could be such a thing, would be like their indie hit before they were just mega huge. But
Photograph is like their Donald Trump, where it's like, I'm a great song. I'm the most song-oriented song out of anybody that you'll ever hear. Like, just ask anybody. And you're like, you're not even...
Are you in the running?
Basing that in reality. Yeah.
Our episode sent me on a real 80s rock kick. Threw in a little Tesla. I'd never really listened to Winger. Not bad.
They had some jams.
I've played my Hysteria cassette every day, probably. I listened to all of Bon Jovi, New Jersey. But yeah, that episode was won in the 11th hour by Def Leppard.
Well, good for them. I'm sure they're listening, and they're very stoked to have won.
Well, for this, we've got Papa Roach, Last Resort, and Evanescence, Bring Me to Life. Hot off the heels of Evanescence, Rigs of Dad episode. That's how we got here, if you're following the narrative.
We skipped the 90s, headed right into spiky black-haired dad hate.
Dude, this is the self-harm matchup of 2000. Deep callback to our first episode, pre-9/11, but right at the cusp.
Although I think Evanescence was after 9/11, weren't they?
2003, you're right.
Yeah, but they sound like they're from the same year. I mean, that was just a bad time for music, for rock music, I guess.
I remember being at work at a restaurant, and Last Resort was a big hit, and this waitress there would hum it and sing it, and kind of, for people that don't listen to rock music regularly, that was pretty hard rock for them, like metal even.
Sure.
Being a new metal apologist in some ways, or at least liking Korn in high school, it's hard for me to hate on it because if this had hit at the right time, I would have been in that Papa Roach shirt. So it's hard for me to come down really hard on anybody.
Do you think that Papa Roach was like the winger of nu metal in that you had Korn as the originators? They're kind of hard. But then Papa Roach was winger in that they were the nu metal band your parents were okay with you listening to?
There's a lot of words bleeped out of Last Resort.
Oh, yeah.
Not just fuck, but cut, bleeding, suffocation, all of that.
Suffocation. The word suffocation was bleeped out.
I think there are probably latter watered down nu metal bands that are probably worse. Wouldn't you say you can also tolerate some Papa Roach? If it comes on, it's not the worst thing.
Well, first of all, this is the only song of theirs I know. And no, there's not a single time I've ever tolerated this.
I think you probably know Getting Away with Murder, and you probably know that pop song that they won a Grammy for later.
I'm pretty sure that I don't, actually. I mean, maybe I do, and I just don't know it's them or something.
I was at, I assume it was Warped Tour 2000, because of when this came out, and Papa Roach headlined, but not really. I think NoFX headlined, and so NoFX ends, and just the mass exodus that happened, it was like some kind of like...
It was like someone pulled a fire alarm.
But they opened with Last Resort, because I think they were so desperate to keep some audience.
I also have a great anecdote about Papa Roach being out of place. What year was that Warped Tour that you're talking about?
I think it was 2000 because this record was out in 2000.
Okay, 2000. So in 2013, I was on tour in Europe, guitar teching for a band called Death to All, which was basically the band Death without Chuck Schuldiner, who's dead.
Yeah.
And we did a festival in Eindhoven, Holland. And the lineup was, I'm going to try and remember all the bands. I'm missing some, but it was pretty brutal. It was Dying Fetus, Satyricon. This is the order. This is the running order. Dying Fetus, Satyricon, Papa Roach,
God,
Death to All, My Dying Bride.
How does that happen?
And there was like others too. That's what I really have no idea. But they played right before us, and I did get to actually see them play. That was the only time I've ever. I actually really wanted to see it because it was just so absurd that they were at this show.
Yeah,
and,
were people into it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I wasn't really, we were like setting up while they were playing, so I didn't really watch, but people were there. I mean, in Europe, I think you can kind of mix bands up like that and people don't really give a shit as much. And I did actually get a Papa Roach shirt from their merch person.
Excellent.
At the end of the show. They were all out of my size, and the one that just said, "Cut my life into pieces" in all caps all over the front, but I did get one.
On the Papa Roach front, I was surprised to see it mentions that the guitar player lifted or borrowed, intentionally or not, it sounds like intentionally, and has copped to it, that he took this little riff out of a Iron Maiden song. Did you see that part?
I saw it. It didn't look like they were admitting to it. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, that's so many Iron Maiden riffs, but I don't know if it's actually like exactly any one riff.
I'm going to play you the riff because I got it queued up here, because Last Resort, in my mind, has always been this riff from this hardcore band Harvest. I don't know if you know of them. I think they were on Trustkill, like in the
I remember the name.
Just like outing Come Down as Bon Jovi, this I'll out Papa Roach as a Harvest riff. But this is the
Harvest.
Yeah, this is the Iron Maiden riff. It's in the middle of this instrumental kind of jam called Genghis Khan. So this is the end of the middle part.
That actually is pretty similar.
So you hear that there. That's
pretty similar, yeah. But I always thought it sounded more like Hallowed Be Thy Name or something like that. But
it is really close to a bunch of their riffs. All right, so then here's the Harvest riff. It's a little slower than I remember, which kind of...
Well, the riff is not exactly the same.
No.
The whole musical idea is kind of similar, but Harvest are not the first ones to ever have that kind of... Also, do you think Papa Roach were even cool enough to know who Harvest was?
Yeah, the Iron Maiden one seems way more likely. I'm going to do this mashup where I put that Harvest riff over this Green Day song. And that makes...
That's much more...
That makes Papa Roach.
Yeah.
All right, before we get sued, I'll stop playing that. But
that is much more similar, actually, that Green Day riff.
Yeah, that's the chord progression.
Oh, wait, can we talk about what his name was? It seems like he changed his name, the singer of Papa Roach.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
To something more true to what it is now. But I feel like when that came out, his name was Kobe Dix. And he, like, later elongated it to, like, what his name actually is or something.
Yeah, it looks like Jacoby Shaddix.
And that's why I also feel like they wrote their own Wikipedia page because it doesn't say anything about that. But I remember when they came out, I thought that was just the funniest fucking thing that you would call yourself that.
Also known as Kobe Dick, Johnny Vodka, John Doe, Dakota Gold, Jacobo Insanico.
Kobe Dick. That's what his name was when it came out. I was like, what the fuck kind of name is that for a human?
Well, then what do you make of Evanescence 3 years later? Because I don't really like or hate either of these. There's a lot of hateable stuff in Papa Roach in general, but if this song comes on the radio, I'll let it run. I wouldn't seek it out on my own, but...
What, P. Roach?
Yeah, I'll let Last Resort play.
You'll let it play? I don't know. Both of these, I could not change the fucking channel fast enough for either one of these. But Papa Roach is definitely more hateable. Evanescence was just like... Cut
my life into pieces. This is my last resort.
That's so great.
See, that's what I mean. It's like funnier.
It is. It's really easy to... I'm a sucker for just guitar-driven stuff, but... I mean, that's good producing right there.
It's just funnier. Like, Evanescence comes on and you're just like, this is just, I feel bad for the people who make this song, and I just change it.
It's so dramatic. Evanescence is, like, clearly she can sing, and that's great, but it's so dramatic, and I hate it.
Yeah, that too. This is so like, in a world? Like, what's the fucking, like a Michael Bay movie trailer.
God, the cover of the record is just her face, Amy Lee.
Well, yeah, you're not going to put the fucking guitar player's face on there.
Funny you mentioned that, because within the Wikipedia, there were some comments about how the label wanted her to have a full-time male co-vocalist. Like, she either couldn't do it on her own or it wouldn't sell to have a female-fronted rock band.
They wanted some edge, some dude edge.
Yeah, and I just thought to myself, like, that's the kind of shit women deal with on occasion that goes a bit unappreciated when people talk about, my dog is entering and...
Is that a walrus or a dog?
Someone like my dog, but in a personification of him in man form is like, women don't sing in rock bands.
Hey, but you take the hot girl and make her look like this tweaker guy from fucking 10 years ago.
What are the kids into now? Bakersfield rock? Okay.
Put a little meth pipe behind it. Photoshop it in there. It's your dog Bo, just like with a cigar rolled in $100 bill.
Yeah, lighting a cigar with a burning $100 bill, talking about how this gal can't front a band on her own.
Throw the skinny white guy in there to rap over it.
Who's a guy from a band I don't even know. The guy on this record is this song is from some band called 12 Stones that I've never heard of.
The producer probably like had points on his record too or something like that.
Yeah, and they pushed back on the full-time co-male vocalist thing, and whoever label agreed to just do the single with that guy doing a bridge that doesn't matter.
It does not matter at all.
I want to go to that.
Oh, does he do more than just the chorus?
Oh, there it is. Nope. Yeah, I think he raps this.
Does he rap?
Second bridge. Oh, God.
Oh.
So much fucking E.
Yeah, they could have had anybody in the world do that.
Yeah, could one of the other band members not have pulled that off?
Well, I think they did like live because they didn't have that guy in the band.
Yeah.
I think they just had like the guitar player. Like, hey, dude, can you do the whitest rap ever for like 1 minute during our show every day? Cool, thanks.
Yeah, I guess why did they have to bring in some other guy from a band? No one knows. Or suggest that needed to happen.
Actually, I have another personal connection to this band as well, Evanescence.
I'll take it.
The guitar player, Ben Moody, and co-writer of this song.
Yeah, I saw his name come up a lot in their story.
Intronaut's engineer for the past 4 records or whatever, / producer, worked with him. And so we actually used that dude's studio on like every single one of our last like 4 albums in some regard. Did like vocals or whatever. Like he would just let us use his studio for free. So by all accounts, maybe that's another reason I'm not going to hate on Evanescence as much.
He seemed like he was in their storyline quite a bit, and then they had some creative differences and he left the band.
Yeah, and he's probably like, cool, I made $10 million too, so I can just go do anything else in the world.
Yeah.
I don't need you people.
There's also another single on that record that I didn't know that I knew, but it's such a dramatic, slow jam ballad. And it's It's just really dramatic.
Yeah, that was bad.
You also knew Evanescence as Christian rock. Did you also get that like thread of info
I didn't know
at the
that,
time?
actually.
All right, so maybe it wasn't as universal as I thought it was. I knew of Evanescence having some sort of Christian background because my dad suddenly had the record, and I was like, "What's this? What you got? What do you got here?" And it's like, "Oh, I like it." It's like, there's got to be something going on here. Oh, they're Christian rock. Okay.
Yeah, you can't deny just the power of the Christian music scene or just the backing of like that audience, you know? All the parents that won't let you have a Papa Roach record.
You can go right to
it's
that.
like down.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something for them to root for. Like, see, you can be Christian and hard rock. Like when a team, like an NFL team has a white running back for like one game and everyone's like, fuck yeah. See, these guys could be good. Why don't more teams have him? Well, because he's like the third string and the other two are hurt. But, you know, if that gets your uncle excited, whatever.
Yeah. Also, I would like to do a little guessing game for you right now. Which of these albums do you think sold more copies?
I'm going to guess Evanescence because of I think they won Best New Artist and Best Rock Performance that year. So I'm going to guess them.
You're 100% correct. They fucking crushed Papa Roach. These people are so rich. Or somebody got really rich off this record. Sorry.
Yeah, Bring Me to Life has almost 113 million listens on Spotify.
That's so fucked up. They're the only people getting paid from Spotify. Okay, so Papa Roach Infest sold 3 million copies in the US and 7 million worldwide, which is pretty fucking crazy. Now, Evanescence sold more than 7 million copies in the United States and over 17 million copies worldwide. That's almost as much as like AC/DC Back in Black or Metallica Black.
Yeah, 17 million is a lot of records. What do you think makes the Evanescence record so much more popular, though? Because that's a really big jump over Infest.
It's more safe. I think that, you know, the Christian thing is huge. Also that it was in like movies. It's a big catchy song, you know, like female vocals. It's just, I don't know, it's well produced.
Yeah.
It's more like Enya in that it can kind of like translate into any culture in the world, I think, and just like be pleasing to the ear.
Yeah, there's something to
like
it.
Papa Roach, you have to want something a little harder. Not everybody's into like really hard shit. Evanescence is like really not a hard song.
It's got classical piano riffs over each guitar.
Yeah.
And then the hype man. The second single that I played, the other really dramatic one, almost in the way that Adele can do a really sparse vocal-based song and have it be huge. This is like not that far removed from that at the time. Not that they're comparable singers.
You're totally right.
But Adele can
It's
put
like
out...
Adele, but with distorted guitars.
Yeah, but
down in the
there's...
mix.
You know, it just has Hello from the Other Side can be really dramatic and sparse. So can this. And I think there's something there. I'm going for it again.
Is that Evanescence?
Yeah, it's kind of like Adele.
Yeah, see? Adele heard that and was like, I can play music too.
I would love her to come out and say one of her early influences was Evanescence.
Adele's only like 26 or something. I bet it was. Dude, that's Evanescence right there.
It's certainly in the wheelhouse.
I can't hear the difference.
Something that I just thought of, two terrible band names, even though I think we're both in agreement that like band names don't really matter once they kind of become repeated enough, but terrible band names.
Yeah, Papa Roach I would throw out at a band meeting if somebody brought that up. I'd be like, "What? Are you insane? Like, why am I even friends with you?" Evanescence sounds like it's a real word, though. Is that I don't know if it is, but is it? Does it mean something?
It's part of a word that means to disappear, and then they added their little word play with it. But you're just asking for Evan's essence, you know? Papa Roach you can't really make more fun of because it's already so bad.
It is the joke.
Yeah.
It already is a joke.
That was such a thing of that time, too, of rock bands like Papa Roach, Limp Bizkit, Snot,
Hoobastank,
great example, Incubus. They thought it didn't matter even more than we think it doesn't matter, but they took it a little bit too literally to be like, doesn't fucking matter, bro. Hoobastank, that's such a great example.
And such a terrible fucking band.
I'm going to edit out me saying they're okay. But they're like, okay. Them and Incubus are both fine.
Incubus is for sure fine.
Well, Hoobastank's just a little bit removed from that. They're not as talented, but they're not that bad.
The song "The Reason" by Hoobastank is maybe the shittiest fucking song ever written.
It's
like you fucking bought us a book on how to write a song.
It's the basic bitch of songs. It's
such a basic bitch.
Such a basic bitch of that genre. It's like, well, how do we do all of the safest things?
Yeah.
You never had a nu metal phase of any kind, right? Like I have some bands I got into and out of. I nearly never go back to it and think to myself, I'm going to listen to Korn's first record. But there was a time where I liked it a lot, the first and second record and into the third, and then I kind of trailed off and got into real metal. Sounds like you jumped from your early days of Def Leppard cassettes and Metallica, and then you mentioned being balls deep in some Black Flag, and then somehow circumvented nu metal altogether.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
Tell me about that.
It was like punk to like power violence to grindcore to Napalm Death. And from Napalm Death, you're just going right into like black metal and death metal.
Yeah.
So I didn't ever cross over into any nu metal. Except I will say that I did buy the first System of a Down album and kind of enjoy it.
Yeah, it's only mildly incriminating on the...
I also saw System of a Down open for Napalm Death at the Whiskey in like 98.
Huh.
When I think they were still kind of like a local band. But they had like cool points to me, so I didn't really feel guilty about it.
Yeah, and they even when they got bigger in their own right, they took Dillinger Escape Plan on tour really early on, and that was like odd credibility.
Yeah.
For I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I went kind of straight through early nu metal, but it was kind of simultaneous with other things. Like I liked Korn and Limp Bizkit, but then also Smashing Pumpkins and Pantera and Metallica and kind of all the classic rock stuff I've mentioned before.
Sure.
I tried to splinter off into like the second wave of like Cold Chamber and Spine Shank and all of that. I can't even really think of the second or third wave, but I was out by the time, Papa Roach and Evanescence came along.
Yeah, you were in your 20s by that point, right?
Well, my punk was more the pop punk, Warped Tour pop punk, and you went Black Flag punk, no pop, and kind of came back around the other side. And I guess I never really got into 80s punk and hardcore because I guess I just thought it sounded terrible and I was just never able to get hooked on it. And I like a lot of bands influenced by that, but when Fat Records was putting out high fidelity punk records, I just never really went back.
Sure.
But thankfully was out by the time Linkin Park came around and Papa Roach. And
yeah, I feel bad for kids who are like bands I meet who are like younger. And they like just like honest to God were down with like some of these fucking shit ass bands. And I just feel bad for them.
Yeah, what could you do? They were, marketed directly to that group of people and it worked.
Yeah. And now that's just ingrained into their musical DNA.
And their podcast will be like Papa Roach versus Evanescence, classic matchup of two really influential bands on both of us, and like I had it on Spotify. I was on their MySpace page. I was a big fan.
Dude, I remember them on MySpace. Yeah. That'll be like the new like I had their first demo.
Yeah, it'll be like they were in my top 8. So fuck with that.
It was Evanescence, Tila Tequila, and fucking Tom from MySpace, and like all my boys from fucking homeroom. Just reminds me of like a time that was so awkward for me in that like all this terrible music was popular. And, like, I just didn't know how to, like...
Not even Slipknot? That first Slipknot record is excellent.
Yeah, in theory, like, I remember I got the cassette single or something like that at a show, and it had the picture of them, and I was like, this is just never getting any of my attention, I'm sorry. But then I kept hearing more and more about them, and, like, this is another thing. This is what I'm talking about. Like, I was friends with people who were like, dude, Slipknot's fucking great. It's, like, the best new thing ever. And I'm like... I don't know. I want to relate to you guys, but like I can't be down with this fucking horse shit.
I can't do it when you're like passing me Mushroom Head CDs and tell me to burn it. I can't do that with you.
Yeah, it's like, guys, this is just, that, even like Fear Factory at the time, and like I'm down with Fear Factory, but like they were kind of lumped into that. I was just like, I can't get down with all this shit. But I did go see the Tattoo the Earth Festival in, I think it was either 99 or 2000, which was headlined by Slipknot with direct support from Slayer. And I was like, I'll stick around, I'll watch this shit. And right then I was like, this is actually a pretty good show. They kind of won me over a little bit. And I never like really became a fan, but I will say that they put on a great fucking show. And I saw them like at an Ozfest, I think a couple years later, and they were great too. I respect them. I'm just not like a fan.
Yeah, after that first record, I got Iowa and was a little bummed that the guitars were mixed kind of low. It's a really loud, drums and vocals are really loud. I kind of went back to it and thought it was okay. And then, good for them for softening their sound enough to become a radio crossover band. But I just don't like a lot of after the first two records. It's not even the singing per se. It's just, I don't know, the sound got grittier and dirtier instead of truly metal. And I'm just less interested in it.
Yeah. But you're right. That first Slipknot album does have some good, it's like perfect mix of like kind of hard and like pretty catchy.
Yeah, it's like whatever can be good about that genre, that's a lot of it.
Who mixed that record?
That's a Ross.
Robinson?
That's a Ross Robinson, and that's an analog record mixed by hand, by the way, and it is super great and really aggressive.
Well, it's crazy too because there's so much going on it too.
Yeah.
It's like all this noisy, weird shit. Like, how do you even mix that? That's insane.
Yeah, and I don't know when I say mixed by hand if I mean it was. I assume it was automated by hand, but it was not the computer. It was an analog record. And
it was like on a board.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And it is, I was about to say masterpiece. I guess it is. It's a really great record.
I just want to say it's great how an hour ago was like really not all that excited to talk about Papa Roach and Evanescence. And then we just naturally started talking about Slipknot for 20 minutes. And now I'm going to say something I never thought I would ever say, is that I'm going to go listen to Slipknot after we get off the phone. And I'm really excited to do it.
Yeah, the way you get excited about Papa Roach and Evanescence is to talk about Slipknot. I saw them at the Agora. Have you ever played the...
Oh, yeah. There's videos of them playing. You saw them there at the Agora?
I saw them at the Agora, and if you remember, I said I saw them in a parking lot of the Alrosa, which was still a pretty big stage. It was like a bigger club show. But yeah, I saw them a couple times.
There's videos. I've seen videos of them like in the early days. I don't know who they were opening for. It was like a club tour and they're opening. There's a video of them like at like Harpo's.
Oh Jesus!
And like, but they're like crushing, and it's funny because they're all like in front of some other bands back. Like they're probably touring with like Soulfly or something, you know?
Yeah.
But they're just like
totally.
crushing it.
Soulfly, what a great reference. Well, we should probably wrap it up with the two artists we're doing the episode on.
Right. Which one of these pieces of fucking audio garbage would you throw into a fucking big fire first, I guess?
It's like an inverse of our usual, if you had to be stuck with one of these songs, what's it going to be?
Yeah.
Since we had this matchup, never swayed from it being Papa Roach Last Resort, which is not an endorsement of it, but when that song comes on, it rocks enough that I can get through it.
Yeah, I'll take that song just because it's like funnier.
It doesn't seem like it takes
really
itself so seriously, even though it's about suicide, and somehow that's less dramatic.
I'd like our listeners to know that I'm sorry that we had to talk about these two pieces of shit. But please vote. The next one will be better. The next one will be better, right?
The next one will be better. How does it get better than that? 2 votes for Papa Roach Last Resort, and now I have to find water hot enough to get clean. FightSongPodcast.com is where you can cast your vote for this episode and our other episodes. We'll be back in a couple weeks with another guest on a new matchup. This episode is over.